Sasa nataka kualika wana ropes wale ambao walifuzu. Let me ask Pastor Rachel that she would come with Mrs. Mayaine. I think the two of them lead this wonderful program. Pastor Rachel, please come, and then Mrs. Mayaine, I believe, will be following a little later.
Good morning, church. Bwana asifiwe. Happy New Year. Happy New Year once more. It's wonderful to see you this morning. We thank God for the opportunity again of being alive and the opportunity to give a brief report about our camp. The ROPS camp was held between the 18th and 22nd of November. And we just want to give a brief report of what happened, such that you know what happens in ROPS class and in graduations. And I hereby invite Elizabeth Mayani, who is the program director. She's going to take us through that brief exercise. So karibu sana, my sister, and thank you.
Good morning, church, and Happy New Year. Have you at any time in your life gone through an experience and then you thought, I wish I knew. I wish I knew this is how it was going to be. I wish somebody who had gone through this experience had told me about it. I wish somebody who knew what it all involves had prepared me for it. Have you ever been there? You know, I'm a teacher, I expect answers. Have you been there? I think we all have been there at one time or another. We go through an experience and, oh, I wish I knew. If I knew better, I would have done things differently. I wish somebody who knew or who had gone through this had talked to me and helped me prepare for this experience. Then I would come out better. And that is why we have the ROPS program. The ROPS, the word ROPS stands for Rites of Passage Experiences. And in life, we go through so many experiences, and these experiences sometimes are categorized according to how we are moving on in life, our stages in life. We get born, that has nothing to do with us. It's about God. We can do nothing. And as we grow, as we go to the next stage, the people around us help us prepare for the next stage in life. When the very young infants are suckling, the mothers begin to prepare them to take solid food. If they are not prepared, and one day you just come with ugali, we know what will happen. They need to be prepared. Before we take our children to kindergarten, we prepare them. Sometimes we even pretend they are going to school. We buy them uniform and a small bag, and they walk around, and they escort others to prepare them. And I'm sure our reverend here, he prepares young couples as they prepare for marriage. He talks with them, he counsels them as they prepare. And in life we have seen what happens when we don't prepare for the stages in life. The Rites of Passage Experiences is a Class 8 program that prepares these young people for secondary school life and also for teenage life. Now we may wonder, teenage, what's so big about teenage? We were there. When we are there, we don't know. But when we look at our teenagers, we know that there are issues we need to be prepared about. We read in the papers, we see on the media, we see it in our homes, that if we have not prepared our teenagers well, things are bound to go wrong. There's so much information in the world, and a lot of negative information, a lot of misinformation that can lead our teenagers astray. And as the Church of Christ, we want to give our teenagers the right attitude. We want to equip them with the right skills and the right information to be able to make the important decisions in their lives as they get into teenagehood, as they go into secondary school. In secondary school, away from home, there is no one to monitor them. Teachers are too busy. Sometimes they don't even care. They assume they were taught at home. So we want our children to be the ones who set the right example when they go to school. And so when they come to the ropes program, we give them the right attitude, we give them the skills and the information that can help them as they get into teenagehood, and how they can make God the center of their lives so that they live a God-directed life. And we do that through classroom teaching every Sunday, and we also have outdoor activities like picnics and hikes and camp. And like the Reverend has said, we have a manual that they're expected to read occasionally and write in something that is going to help them in their lives. And that is why we have the ropes program. This year, we had our final camp in November between the 18th and 22nd. We were at Kikuyu, at a children's home there, and we had a good time there. We want to thank all of you, the whole church, for your contributions towards the food, towards the travel, and even your commitment to having the camp be a success. We thank you, parents, for trusting us with your children. We want to thank the church. We had visitors from the church. Our Reverend came and had a one-on-one with these ropers to encourage them and to listen to them, which is very important. And of course, we also want to thank a young group of people, the youth of this church, who have made a commitment to help us in the ropes program. We know in life, we learn from those ahead of us. Now, my experiences when I was a teenager are very different from what the teenagers are going through today. So we need the young people to tell us, to give us the 411 on what is going on. And we want to thank the youth of this church for the commitment they have made to help us in the ropes program. And we also thank you for your prayers, for your continued prayers, even as the ropers did their Class 8 exam. And we want to thank God for their results, and we continue to pray for them that they will get into schools, whatever school it is. It is not the school that is good, it is the children or the students who make the school good. And we pray that with the experiences and the attitude changes and the knowledge that they have gathered from the ropes program, there will be a positive influence in the schools that they go to. And now I'd like to invite two of them, Maureen and Samuel, to tell us briefly about their ropes camp. Maureen?
Praise the Lord, church. On the 18th of November to 22nd of November, I went for a ropes camp at the Tumaini Ministries. And then, on the first day, we learned about marks of childhood. These are the marks that we used to do when we were younger. We used to have childish behavior, senseless talking, and our way of thinking was just childish, and we were also careless. But the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 11 says, when I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child and reasoned like a child. When I became a woman, I put my childish ways behind me. And he also talked about the marks of adulthood. We should be orderly, responsible, sensible, and our behavior should be those of an adult. We should also be reliable and trustworthy, focused and understanding. All of these, the marks that we've talked about adulthood, we've tried to practice them at home. Our parents can witness that. We also talked about journaling. It's very important. Like when you are angry, instead of just pouring out the anger on people, you should just journal. You should write your personal thoughts, feelings, and also your secret, so that it can prevent you from pouring out your anger to everyone. On the second day, we talked about the journey through life. And it starts at conception, birth, baby, child, teenager, young adult, old age, and finally death. On that same day, we went for a hike. We were so excited thinking that it was going to be fun. But in the middle of the road, it started raining, and we were not prepared for the rain. We thought that we were going to another campsite, but in the evening, we went back to the same place that we were. We got angry, but as we were taught about journaling, instead of pouring out our anger to our teachers, we just journaled. We also talked about having a relationship with God. We should open and share anything because God knows all our secrets, even the dirtiest ones. So you should not be afraid to tell God what to think. And in the book of Matthew chapter 6 verse 33, it says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things shall be added unto you." And God has made some people, he has made it possible, but some people not, because he has a reason for everything that he does, and we should not question God. And also in the book of Hebrews chapter 11 verse 6, it says, "And without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and rewards those who seek him." And our teacher here, Elizabeth, also taught us, she just came up with a book from the Bible, which really moved us. It comes from the book of Proverbs chapter 31 verse 30, and it says, "Charm is deceptive, beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised." Praise the Lord. On that day, we fasted. Fasting first means that we should keep everything that we love doing all the time. And the time that we used to do all those things, we should praise God. Like us, we are not supposed to talk because we love talking too much. We are told not to talk to anyone, but the person who comes to your tent to speak to you. So you can imagine you have an apple, and you are not supposed to eat it for the whole day until the next day. And the way it smells so sweet that you could eat it. But with God's grace, we didn't. We prayed, read the Bible, prayed, and our mentors came to speak to us. They were really inspiring, because if it were not for them, we should have just eaten the apple. In the whole process, we learned that the journey through life is so long. We have ups and downs, but with the grace of God, with hard work and grace of God, we can just conquer them all. And with all that, we thank our parents for letting us go for the camp, because if they had refused, we would not have gone, because we are under them, and we should always respect our parents, and as well as our elders. And about peer pressure in high school, we know that when you go to high school, there are people who will always introduce us to drugs and to do bad things. But we are told that we should be assertive and tell them that it's not the right thing to do, because we've been taught that it's not good. And because we've been taught, and some people haven't been taught, we can just go through our books and tell them maybe they will change their lives. It will change their lives, and they won't do it again. Thank you.
Good morning, congregation. Good morning, the whole church. My name is Samuel Kigodho. I'm an ex-rope. Now that we've already finished the program, I'm a representative representing the men and telling of the experiences and the teachings that we learned during the whole camp. Day one, we traveled to Tumaini area in Kikuyu, where before we even set up camp, we had 2 lessons which were on marks of, journaling and sauntering. What is sauntering? It is just walking around, taking in a deep breath, looking at the environment, seeing how it is, thanking God that everything is actually there. You actually have clean air to breathe. In short, what I'm trying to say, that sauntering is actually looking at everything God has made and thanking Him for it. As we were told to go sauntering, we actually did not first understand what it meant. So when our teacher was looking at us, we were just walking around lazily because we did not understand what he actually meant. But then he reprimanded us and told us to go again. This time, we were supposed to tell of the experiences, the sights, and to thank God what He had made for us. As I was walking around, you could see the lush grass, you could see butterflies, you could notice that the air was fresh, nothing was wrong with it. And when we came back, we actually had to tell of the experiences. And I think sauntering is good because, at home, before we even went for this camp, we were the generation of lazy children. Those who just watch television, outside it's dirty, but we just don't do anything. This time, we actually saw that there's a lot which needed to be done. And I think this is what touched environmentalists like Wangari Maathai to do what she did. And that's why she is known all over the world, because of what she does, because of how she cares for the trees, for the environment. And I think these are the teachers were trying to instill in us with sauntering. And I would like to thank them very much for that. Next, we go to journaling. Journaling is writing of everyday experiences. Let's say there was a bad day. Instead of just being scared, feeling bad, you should just write down the moments, the displeasures, and then when you come across a similar problem, you can be able to refer back and see what went wrong and how to go about the matter. In journaling, there are reasons why we are supposed to journal. In journaling, we are supposed to journal because we can be able to go back to past experiences and learn from them. And also, we can also seek spiritual refinement from God. Because if you look at past experiences, let's say one time you failed in an exam. If you go back, you can be able to see, maybe I did not go for refinement much. Maybe I was too lazy. Maybe I played a lot. Through journaling, you can be able to find out the problems and you can be able to write down even good experiences. And that's about journaling. And the second day, we learned about marks of childhood and marks of adulthood. In marks of childhood, those are the things we do that terms us as childish. Even though we are teenagers, there are some things that we used to do at home that made our parents see us if we are just children. Number one, watching too much television, sleeping too much, being lazy, not having anger management. As in, let's say, I used to have a problem, with people who have small brothers. When, let's say, you just want to close a curtain, your small brother doesn't want you to do it, he bites you. Now I start arguing with him, and he's only 2 years old, and I'm 14. So when my parent looks at me, she can't seem to know who is the older one here and who is the younger one. So I think you understand what I mean. Now that's one of the marks of childhood that I'm talking about. Another one, you just stay around. The nanny is cleaning the table, you finish your food, you just leave the plate on the table and let her do the work. No, that's why we come to marks of adulthood. These are what term people as responsible. Like you adults. Let me give an example. I've never seen my father coming home and saying, I really had a bad day. You remember those snacks that you ordered? I don't think you can be able to get them. At work, it was not good. I mean, at school, when somebody, let's say he hits your leg, you start arguing and waste a lot of time. Now, in marks of adulthood, that's why we come to anger management, perseverance, being responsible, which was what the teachers were trying to instill to us most. Because when you are responsible, all the rest follows. That's why at camp, every time, either if it was breakfast time, lunch time, dinner time, before we even took our own food, we were supposed to serve the mentors, the counselors, and the people around first before we took our own food. That means we put everyone else ahead and we came out back. That's now what is called service. Just like Jesus washed his disciples' feet. Yes, and that's now marks of childhood and marks of adulthood. And following that, we had a hike. Our mentors and counselors told us to pack all our belongings, our sleeping bags, everything. They told us that we were going to a new campsite. We actually believed it the first time. So as we were walking, they had actually prepared something small for us to eat on the way. And along the way, there were important virtues that we learned. Like if you're carrying a heavy load on your back, literally, you have to learn perseverance. You can't just walk and say, I'm tired, I can't go anymore. And that's why we come to teamwork. Our team, as in these men standing behind me, we encouraged each other. There were some of us who could not be able to carry the luggage like you see in the pictures, but we actually helped them and we reached to a place. And then the mentors told us that there was a river which was overflowing. And they said that we had to go back because we could not be able to cross the river. But later we came to know that it was a trick. But through all that, we came to learn of perseverance, teamwork, love, compassion. Because you can't just leave somebody standing with a bag down and he's very tired. So some of us volunteered to carry our mates' loads and continue with the moving. And that's why I saw that the hike was good. Because we'd be watching TV at home and we wouldn't have learned all of these things. Okay, next we were supposed to learn how to budget. That's why I think we were given 1,800 shillings to budget for our supper. We bought rice, meat, potatoes, onions and tomatoes. And we are supposed to make all of that into wonderful dinner. And that's where our cooking skills were tested. What we came out with was crunchy rice. Not the kind of rice which has stayed in water long enough. I was actually the one in charge of the rice. At first, I saw as if it was a done deal. We couldn't make it. Then I did not add enough water to cover the rice completely. I had already seen my mistake before, but I said, what's the worst that could happen? Later, the mentors and counselors, they just ate a few spoons and they told me, we've tried, but we couldn't make it. And then we go to the meat and to the other ingredients. We were actually having a problem of disagreement, which is very, very bad because in the camp, we were being taught to be responsible, to understand each other and to come to an agreement. But we are actually disagreeing over putting the cabbage together with the meat or whether we just cook them separately. And we only had 2 sufurias, and remember there was rice cooking at the other side. But eventually, we decided to put everything together, and What I can say only came out right was the meat. The cabbage, we did not even see it cook. It was already late, and we had to go back to our tents. In the morning, we came to something that looked much like silage than cabbages, and we had to take those out. Then we move on to the next day. I think it was on a Friday, yes. That's when we were supposed to fast. In the morning, we were told to eat as much as we wanted. Actually, I have a friend called Lee who I don't think he's here. I don't know how many boiled eggs he ate. I managed to eat 3. In short, we were told we eat because after that, we would be having an experience of fasting. And they wanted us to be full on that time. What is fasting? Fasting is a discipline where food and other distractors are left behind so that we can seek an inner meaning with God. Reasons for fasting are to read the Bible, to seek spiritual refinement, to seek God's face, and to see your past mistakes, to pray. In short, we are supposed to get closer to God with fasting. And there are 2 types of fasting. We have the wet or partial fast and the dry or absolute fast. In the absolute fast, food and water are not allowed. But we actually did the wet or partial fast. And from wet, you can be able to get that we were only supposed to have water. The whole day we were in our tents memorizing scriptures, seeing people like Paul in Acts chapter 9 verse 9, who fasted for 3 days because he had seen the wrong in himself, and it was due to his blindness that he was able to seek a deeper meaning with God, and eventually his sight was returned and he became an apostle to the Gentiles. So fasting actually changes some people, and fasting even helps people because when you go to God in times of problems, he can be able to help you. For example, we go to Esther chapter 4 verse 1 to 16. We see that her people, the Jews, were actually facing total extinction because of the other people led by Haman. And in the end, we see that Haman was exposed and hanged for his treachery. Okay, and other lessons that we learned are we had our theme and our motto. Our theme was 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 11, which says, "When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put childish ways behind me." That verse is trying to teach us that this camp was all about transition from all the pitiless, meaningless things that we used to do as children to now transitioning to manlyhood, where we get marks of manlyhood like responsibility, perseverance, and what I had said. Okay, now we go to the motto. Our motto as men now, men only, we had our motto, which was Job chapter 38 verse 3, which says, "Brace yourself like a man, I will question you and you shall answer me." So that means men are supposed to be upright, not those people who just sit down and do nothing. So I think that's what the teachers are trying to instill in us. And in conjunction to that, we had our values, 5 of them, which are character, connection, competence, compassion, contribution. We were told that we are supposed to use our values in daily life. I'll start with character. Character is who you are when no one is watching. On the outside, some people might seem to be the righteous ones, those who don't do bad things. but under that, when no one is watching, you tend to do the opposite of what people expect. And that's why in character, we were told to man up and be responsible and have God in us. Because without God, you tend to do sin, which is actually not right. And in conjunction to that, according to the Bible, we had people whose character had a fault in them. Like, for example, let's take Ahab. Ahab had a wife who was called Jezebel. And because of Jezebel, he actually went down. He was killed in a chariot by an arrow. And you actually see that because of his character, yes, okay. And because of his character, he was actually, because of his character, he was actually in the wrong and he paid for his sins. And since I've already told you the values, I'll end on Sunday, the last day of the camp. We had our own small service where I was actually appearing again to tell just a short experience of what had happened during the camp. And as we were finishing, we were given two things as men. We were given a shield and a belt. I know you're asking yourselves what those two meant, but let me just make it clear. The belt, you know what a belt is supposed to do. It's supposed to hold a shirt or a trouser or maybe some other things up. And in the spiritual way, the belt is actually something like a rope or just something that holds all the righteous things that you're supposed to do together. What I'm trying to say is, if you want to be a righteous person, you're supposed to hold all the virtues together with you. Do you understand what I mean? Next, we go to the shields. In traditional communities, shields are given to people as a sign of manlyhood. And as I was saying, the theme of the camp was a transition from childhood to manlyhood. And that's why the shield was given to us, to tell us that we are not just some simple people anymore. We were people who had responsibilities, and we were people who were going to look up to us and see what we are doing and emulate us. And I think the camp was a really good experience, because after that, you've seen these people, they are responsible, and you see they just don't stay around. And I think all in all, the camp was a very good experience. Thank you.
Wow. I retire, he takes over. Right? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, young people. We appreciate all of you. I had the privilege of visiting each one of them in their tents the day that they were fasting. I saw the apple. It was looking good. They were not supposed to eat it for the whole day until the next day. And you heard from them what a wonderful experience this was. When we present to you our needs, when Pastor Rachel and the team, Pastor Munyambo and the team, when they present to us a list of things to be done, twaja mbele yenu tukisema vyakula hivi, tunahitaji usaidizi upande huu, unaelewa ni kwa nini. Ni kwa sababu madhumuni yetu ni kuwalea hawa watoto wetu ili wafike kiwango kama hicho kukomaa, na wao wenyewe wameshuhudia ya kwamba walikuwa na tabia za utoto, lakini pale wakafundishwa sasa wahame, wasiambiwe kama ule jamaa utahama lini, lakini sasa wamehama kutoka katika tabia hizo, wameanza kukomaa. And in themselves they have a realization that it is time to grow up. And I want to say thank you to all our leaders for giving themselves, for committing their time. When you go there and when you watch the teachers and the volunteers, most of whom are not here today, we were going to give them their certificates. We are aware that many of them have not returned, so we will not give them their certificates today. But I want to say thank you to every one of them for the hard work and commitment. Kwa sababu walijitolea, walienda kukaa na wale watoto, walilala humo, walienda pamoja na wao, wakienda kwa matembezi hayo, the hike, wakati walipokuwa upande wa I think it was Tana, walipokuwa upande huo walitembea kilomita I think 38, almost 38 or 40. Watoto waliporudi asubuhi yake, tulipokutana na wao, wanasema misuli inauma, lakini walijifunza, kama ulivyosikia wakisema, walijifunza ya kwamba kumbe hata katika safari hii, wakati unapolemewa, wenzako wanakuja na kukusaidia. So they learned teamwork, they've learned so many wonderful things. And it is our prayer that the virtues you have learned will go with you in secondary school, university, and when you become mothers and fathers. These are our prayers for you. Now we want to give you a recognition certificate. You have finished. I recognize that some of you are not here today, but please, if you're here, just come, and we will ask that you will receive from your two leaders, Pastor Rachel and Mrs. Mayaini. June Ndinda. John Murimi. John Murimi. Faith Mwende. Faith Mwende. Phoebe Wairimu. Phoebe Wairimu. Michelle Kiptol. Michelle Kiptol. John Gungu. John Gungu. Eugene Kimtai. Darcy Chepto. Darcy Chepto. Joshua Esinyen. Joy Morkomen. Joy Morkomen. Valerie Horace. Valerie Horace. Melissa Ogutu. Melissa Ogutu. Brian Kiprotich. Brian Kiprotich. Samuel Kigodho. Samuel Kigodho. Yatich Kiptanui. Okay. Michelle Chebet. Michelle Chebet. Lee Leonard. Maureen Gathweri, Nicole Kasui, and yours isn't there? Okay. Nitauliza ya kwamba wazazi wa watoto hawa waje hapa, kila mzazi aliye hapa, mama na baba ikiwa wote wawili wako, waje hapa wasimame na watoto wao. Wazazi mje hapa. Just keep moving that way. Wazazi tafadhali mje. Please appreciate these parents. You recognize that some of these are also in our leadership, and we want to thank God for all of you. Can we make a longer, maybe a little longer line so that we are all visible? A little bit on this side. Let me ask Rachel Mwabu if she would come and commit these children and their parents to God. You know, it gives me a lot of joy. I don't know whether it goes in your spirit in the same way, ya kwamba kanisa letu tunaweza kuhudumu kwa watoto, kwa vijana kama hawa, kwa vijana senior youth ambao walitoa ushuhuda wao, and that we are all partakers. Kile chakula ulichotoa kina faida, ya kwamba hawakuenda kula tu, hawakuenda tu kujumuika, ndio walifurahia, walikula, but there were important lessons in life. Na siku zijazo, we will be able to see the fruits of our children. Tunataka taifa lililokomaa. Na matumaini yetu kila mmoja ya hawa vijana, in the days to come, we will see you standing. Kama vile mlivyofundishwa kule ulimwenguni katika shule, utakutana na watu, dawa za kulevya, watu wengine wanataka kukutumia vibaya. We have people today who are even teaching young people how to have sex openly. These are things we are discussing. I was in a team that went to see the Minister of Education from the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya, kuambia ya kwamba waangalie jinsi masomo yanavyofundishwa katika shule zetu. But we as church, tunataka kuungana pamoja, tusaidie taifa linalokuja, so that we can have life, so that there will be people to give to marriage. Hello kanisa, kwa sababu dunia inavyoendelea, kutakuwa vigumu kupata mtu wa kuoa au mtu wa kuolewa, mtu wa kusema huyu atajenga nyumba yake, au because the world is going haywire. Sasa mwanaume na mwanaume watazaa watoto kutoka wapi? We are teaching our children biblical based values. Kwa hivyo Rachel, unapowaombea hayo ndio mengine utayaombea. Let's ask the congregation to stand, lift your hands towards these parents and children.